Sorry, I didn't know I was going to be standing next to him, so I got a little nervous. I believe that once you've heard his message, that you will join me in supporting him, because he is the candidate that is talking about Ronald Reagan's 3 legs to the Republican stool: strong families, strong military, and a strong economy.
That's good enough.
I'm sorry. Each of you should have one of these supporter cards, and if you can go ahead and fill out your name and your information right now. After you've heard Governor Romney's positive message, I hope you'll go ahead and check one of the boxes at the top to help support him. He has been committed to the process here, and we need your support at the caucuses, and we especially need your support in your precinct. And if you're interested in rounding up supporters or hanging up signs, please sign up to be a precinct captain. He has been committed to the process here in Iowa, and I hope as first in the nation voters that we will take that commitment to our process seriously. Governor Romney is our president. I'm so sorry. I'd be fine if he wasn't standing next to me. This is the next president of the United States. So, no, please help me join me in giving a warm Fort Madison welcome to the next president of the United States.
That was wonderful. I enjoyed that. That was a wonderful introduction. It really was. And I appreciate the chance to have a little, if you will, synopsis of the things I stand for. And I appreciate seeing these yellow shirts here. That means people were out at the Ames straw poll. That's a bit of a hike from here. What does it take? About 2.5 hours to get, 3 hours to get to? Do I hear 3.5, 3.5 hours? That's so important. Your bus broke down. Holy cow, isn't that something? Well, thanks for making the hall. It really makes a difference. And I was proud to participate in the process. Delighted to have won in Ames. And it's not going to be easy. It's going to be real close in my view. By the time we get finished with the caucuses, everybody's going to come on strong in their own way, bring their own teams together. But I'm lucky that a lot of those guys and gals that came to help me in Ames are going to be with me again. And I just want to say thank you to you in advance for all your work. See, I saw you in the parking lot. Now you're here. He's finding his seat. I didn't expect to be doing this in my life. I didn't know I'd be running for president. I mean, I was just an ordinary guy in high school and enjoying myself. I met a girl in the sophomore class while I was a senior, who I thought was kind of cool, and we're still going steady. And she and I have 5 sons and 5 daughters-in-law and 10 grandkids. And so family for us is critical. We've learned that a mom and a dad giving of their time and their energy to their kids can make. Is that Judith calling? No, I'm sorry. A family can have an enormous impact on developing the kind of values and the strengths of character that an individual needs to be successful in the world today. And so I'm a big believer in strengthening our families. And a big part of why I'm in this race is to do a better job helping to give families the support they need to be strong and to be able to stand up to the challenges we face. I gave a speech about a week ago to the Values Voters Summit in Washington, D.C., and laid out 12 things a president can do to strengthen families. And I won't tell you all 12 because you have other things to do today. But I can tell you that at the top of my list is to make sure that we teach our kids that before they have babies, they should get married. That marriage comes first. I also wanted to underscore what marriage is. Marriage is a relationship between a man and a woman. And right now there are probably 4 people that I'm trying to think about who all the leaders are in the race here in Iowa. But among Senator McCain and Fred Thompson and Mayor Giuliani and myself, there's only one who's in favor of a federal amendment to protect marriage, and that's me. I want marriage to be between a man and a woman. And if you care about that, that can work for us. Now, beyond building strong families, we also have to build a strong economy. And how do you do that? Well, Hillary Clinton has her ideas. Her view is we need to raise taxes. We need to raise Social Security taxes, income taxes, the death tax, and then Charlie Rangel, the Democrat congressman, just came out with a plan yesterday saying let's put a new tax increase in place, a 4% surcharge on taxes would be the largest tax increase in the history of the country, and you know that Hillary Clinton would sign that too if it made it through Congress. She likes to raise taxes because she thinks that things get better if you raise people's taxes. In my view, the worst thing you can do to an economy is take money away from individuals, from entrepreneurs, from investors, and give it to government. And so I want to keep our taxes down. I want to make the Bush tax cuts permanent. I want to kill the death tax once and for all. I have a special savings plan, by the way. And the savings plan is this: for people in this country making $200,000 a year and less, and that's almost everybody in the country. The new tax rate on your savings, that's your interest in the bank or dividends from stocks or from mutual funds, capital gains, the new tax rate would be absolutely zero. And that's to allow people to save for their retirement, for the down payment in a home, for education for children. Let's keep our taxes down. How else do you strengthen the economy? Well, you strengthen the economy by getting us off of foreign oil. It makes no sense for us to keep sending $1 billion every day. Think of that. $1 billion every day leaves our country and goes to other countries to buy oil from them. And in a lot of cases, like in the case of Ahmadinejad or Putin or Chavez, they use that money against us. It makes no sense at all for our foreign policy or for our economy, or for that matter, it doesn't make a lot of sense for our environment to be using that much oil. We can become energy independent, and I want to do exactly that. I want to have biodiesel, biofuel, ethanol, nuclear power, liquefied coal, gasified coal, all sorts of sources that are not CO2 emitting. And at the same time, I want us to become more efficient in our use of energy, in our cars, in our homes, in our businesses. We can become energy independent. There's another way we strengthen our economy, and that's solving the immigration problem we have. We like legal immigration, but we've got to stop illegal immigration. And when I was governor, each governor gets a series of questions that are brought to you. One is, should we give driver's licenses to illegal aliens? And my answer was no. And I just heard today, I didn't understand this, but with regards to another issue. One was, are we going to give in-state tuition breaks to illegal aliens? Doesn't sound very good, does it? Well, when I was governor, that was brought to they passed a law saying we're going to give in-state tuition breaks to illegal aliens, and I vetoed that. Now, the other people have a different view. Governor Huckabee, who's running for president also, he signed that. He wanted in-state tuition breaks for illegal aliens in his state. I think that's the wrong way to go. So if you want to strengthen the economy, in my view, you welcome legal immigrants, but you say no to illegal immigration. Now, how else do we strengthen our economy? And that is get government to spend less money. I fought very hard using my line out of veto to try and rein in excessive spending. One of the folks running for president on the Republican side, Mayor Giuliani, fought the line out of veto all the way to the Supreme Court. I think that's a mistake. The best tool a governor has and the best tool a president has to rein in excessive spending is that line out of veto. So strong families, strong economy, and strong military. How are we going to strengthen our military in this country? I believe we need to add about 100,000 troops or more to our active duty personnel. I also believe that we're going to have to buy new equipment and armament to make sure that these men and women have the equipment they need to be successful on the battlefield, and also the care they deserve when they come home. We got some real challenges around the world. I think during the Clinton years, there was this view that somehow, once we won the Cold War, that there was no more evil in the world. We really didn't need to have a strong military. And so President Clinton reduced the size of our armed forces from 2 million to 1.5 million. He took 80 ships out of the Navy. He cut our Air Force 25%. He took what some have called a holiday from history, assuming that bad things won't happen again. Well, there are still bad things in the world and bad people in the world. And it's essential for America to have a strong military. And to have a strong military, you have to have a strong economy. And to have a strong economy, you have to have strong families, where kids are learning about the values of education and hard work and sacrifice and patriotism. These are things they learn with their moms and dads' teachings. And so my campaign is about strengthening America. You got a lot of people to take a look at. Republicans and Democrats. My guess is most of you here are Republicans. So you're looking at each of us. And we have different views on some of these issues and very different track records. And I'm happy to show you my track record. I'm firmly pro-life. I am pro-family. I am opposed to same-sex marriage. I want to make sure that legal immigration is protected, but I have been steadfast in fighting against illegal immigration. I know how to rein in spending. I was faced with a huge budget gap, $3 billion budget gap. We cut spending and cut back. And at the end of my 4 years, we had a $2 billion rainy day fund left behind so that people were able to count on a good future. And finally, I'll take credit for the fact that the Boston Red Sox won the World Series. You know, we get blamed for everything that goes wrong. We might as well get some credit for things that go right, even though we had absolutely nothing to do with it. I see this Red Sox hat in the front row here. It's an honor to have a few Red Sox fans around the country, and the last 2 nights have been very, very good to the Red Sox, and I hope they keep that up. Let me tell you, I'm really optimistic about the future of our country. I wish. Of course, you've lived in Iowa, most of you, all your life, and so you've met Iowans, and you come away saying, well, we have heartland values here, and America's going to be strong as long as the values that are held in this part of the country are strong and firm. But you should know in other parts of the country as well, there are awfully good people. They don't call them heartland values usually. If you're in South Carolina, they talk about Southern values. Someone printed up a shirt for me down there. It said, Yankee Governor, Southern Values. I said, absolutely. And then if you're in Michigan, they talk about Midwest values. And those are good too. And if you're up in New Hampshire, they talk about Yankee values. And not to be confused with the New York Yankees. Yankee values. And you know what? There is a common theme in all of these. And that common theme is love of our families, love of our faith, love of our country, willingness to work hard, willingness to sacrifice for the future. That's the nature of America. We esteem opportunity above ease and dependence on government. And Hillary Clinton, if she were elected president of this country, I'm convinced she'd take a sharp left turn with big government, big taxes, big brother telling us how to run our lives. That is not the right course for America. That's a course that would weaken our military, it would weaken our economy, and weaken our families. And so people are going to have a choice, Republican and Democrat, which way to go. And among us Republicans, you're going to take a look at each of us and say, okay, who can beat Hillary Clinton? And I'm convinced I can do that. And I'm convinced that one of the ways I do it, is winning right here in Iowa. Because, you know, there are some purple states. You know, you've now become known as a purple state, all right? Because you can be Republican, you can be Democrat. To win in a purple state, you got to be able to connect with people here in Iowa, and that's one reason I'm fighting so hard in this caucus and also in the straw poll process. I want to make sure that people in Iowa know me and are willing to vote for me in the general election, because I don't think we win unless we get Iowa and Nevada and Michigan and Florida and some of these purple states. So you're going to make a real difference. Your voice is going to be heard around the country. You're going to be the first to help select the nominee for our party. And if you give me that vote, I think I'm going to get the nomination. And one thing I'm sure of, if I get that nomination, I'll beat Hillary Clinton for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, let me turn to you. This is quite an audience. I'll tell you. Here comes dinner. No, that's it. Okay. Let's see. Good. Oh, okay. Boston is ahead. That's good news. That's good news. Thank you. I just got a correction. I mentioned that Governor Huckabee signed a tuition credit for illegal aliens. He didn't sign it. He supported it, but he didn't sign it. Do you know whether it made it through the legislature?
They wisely did not pass it.
The legislature did not pass it. He supported it. So we have different views on that, as well as other topics. Let's turn to you, though, and your questions. Yes, sir.
You know, you've ran on me before, and I'm always interested in the veterans issue.
Yeah.
And we'll change that because I think you do such a great job with the veterans. I love that you come to what you did for
Well, thank you.
But what I want to ask now is, I spent about 3 hours tonight on the internet with other veterans all over the United States. And the question they're asking right now is, and I want to ask you how you feel on this. They think the National Guard should be out in California like retire and let the regular military fight the war.
Yeah.
We've got a crisis at home. How do you feel on that?
Well, the National Guard, of course, I'm not sure we'd have them out fighting fires because they need fire training. I'm sure there's some National Guardsmen who have the fire training. Certainly patrolling streets is a good thing to do. I haven't seen reports of substantial looting in California. And I think that's in part because people have been careful and watched each other's homes and so forth. And the Guard is really there for that. You really need professional firefighters in these settings where there's been fire. But one of the reasons I'm in favor of adding at least 100,000 troops to our active duty is that I think we've put too much of a burden on our National Guard and reserve units. They didn't sign up for once every 4 years going out into harm's way like this. They signed up anticipating that they'd be ready in case there were a major emergency, but generally taking responsibility for caring for us here at home. And my view is we need more active duty personnel so we don't have to put such a burden on our National Guard and our reservists, and that would allow them more of them to be here. I don't think that would have made a difference in California, to tell you the truth, but I do think it makes sense to have our Guardsmen here at home and to have more active duty in that responsibility. Thank you.
I thank you for today, and thank you for what you did for the best of your state.
Thank you.
We look forward to it when you become president and for the rest of the
Thank you.
nation.
Thank you. You're very kind. We have the person who was actually a Congressional Medal of Honor winner was my Secretary of Veterans Affairs, and he worked with me and with the legislature to improve our veterans benefits, and we believe we have the most generous veterans program of any state in America. Yes, sir.
I 100% support your family values, but one of my biggest issues, to put on the record, I've never voted Republican. Usually have a slogan for left hand to vote Republican. But I really want to support you. One of the questions I have is, I believe in family values, but what do you tell the children that are going to bed hungry every night? And tell about the children that families that are working for less. How do you comfort them, and what kind of goal or vision do you have for those?
Well, first, for people in our country that are having a tough time, and there are a lot of folks that are having a tough time, we have to make sure that we do our very best to give them better opportunities so they can have a more promising time. One thing we can do is make sure they all have health care. All right, health care is very expensive, and one thing I was proud of doing in my state was getting health insurance for everybody in the state. We didn't have government take it over, and we didn't raise taxes to do it. That wasn't necessary. But instead we were able to get private insurance for the uninsured in our state. That helps working families having a hard time making ends meet. Number two, we do have good programs, and perhaps we'll look at them, that are support programs for those in real need. So people that are hungry, we have food stamp programs and housing voucher programs. We also have the earned income tax credit, so people get money back. Actually, today about 30% of Americans don't pay any income tax because of the earned income tax credit that comes back their way. And so we have safety net programs, and we're going to continue to do that. But in my view, the right answer for the future of the country is to help open up opportunity for more people. That's why I want to let people save their money tax-free. That's why I want to improve our schools. That's why I want to get health care for all of our citizens, not just for a few who could afford gold plate policies, but for all of our citizens. And frankly, I don't stay up at night worrying about rich people doing well. They're going to do just fine. I worry a great deal about middle-income families that are getting squeezed because of the burdens and the costs of kids and taxes and the higher gasoline prices. I worry about middle-income Americans, and I worry also about very low-income Americans. And we're going to do our best to make sure that we care for those citizens so that America is a land of opportunity for everyone. Thank you. Yes? Ma'am, yes.
There's an issue with 20-degree place in Massachusetts.
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
But, and I didn't see it myself, but were you aware of, I guess it was school that was getting at 1 or 2 by
That was Maine. Maine. Starts with M, but fortunately. Yeah. For those that were not aware of it, it was actually birth contraceptions. It was the pill they were providing to girls 11 years of age and older without parental involvement or consent. And that was a decision made by the school board. Now, my understanding is that the cry that has come from the citizenry is so loud, and by the way, a national response as well, that they're backing off of that. I don't know how far they've backed off yet, but obviously that's just absolutely nuts. I mean, Barack Obama, earlier this year, said that he thought that kindergartens ought to have age-appropriate sex education. Kindergarten, all right? And I came back and said, wait a second, the age-appropriate sex education in kindergarten is none. And yet there are some liberals, there are some liberals that just want to take our country in a very unusual direction. And that idea in that, among that school board is just completely out in left field. I even heard that, actually I just saw on a website this afternoon, and so I can't confirm it yet, but that the district attorney in that area where the school was said you'd have to report people that were sexually active that are that young. It would be a reportable, it's illegal. So, and I don't know exactly how the law works there, but you know, there will always be some liberals that have a very different view about what makes a strong nation. And in my view, a strong nation starts with a strong home. And so it's critical that we protect those homes and the strength of those homes.
I know religion is kind of a touchy subject with you being LDS and knowledge, but as a fellow LDS member, I was wondering, as president, do you think that regular temple attendance or temple attendance at all on your part would be controversial to the public, and how would you handle that?
I don't think anyone's participation in their faith is a problem in this country. I think we do not select people who are running for office to become president or to become a nominee based upon where they go to church. I think instead we want to see people that subscribe to the values we think are important. And virtually all the faiths that you're familiar with in this country flow from a Judeo-Christian ethic, which says that there's a God, that we're all children of the same God, that the God who created us gave us certain inalienable rights, and among them are liberty, and liberty therefore is a gift of God and something to be protected. These principles, these values are, in my view, fundamental to our society and shared among all faiths in the Judeo-Christian world. And so I think in the final analysis, people don't care about what church you go to, they care about what values you have. And on that basis, I expect to have the kind of values that will get me elected. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. My name's Julie Hayes, and I have a group called Kiepet for Darfur, and our group is raising awareness of the atrocities in Darfur. According to the LA Times, you have divested your holdings from companies doing business in Iran, and you've urged states to do so. So as a presidential candidate, can I ask, have you divested your holdings from companies doing business in Sudan and that contribute to the atrocities in Darfur?
Actually, my personal investments, I don't manage and haven't for 4 years. Because when I ran for governor, I took the investments I had and gave them to an outside third party and said, please manage those in such a way that I don't lose my money, but I don't want to have conflicts of interest that might exist between something I've invested in and the decision I need to make as a governor. So I don't know where my investments are, but I've asked the person who is the trustee to try and keep my investments consistent with my political views, if he can. And sometimes they can do that well, and sometimes if they're in a mutual fund, they probably can't. But I certainly agree that an effort to avoid investments in enterprises which have substantial business in places like the Sudan is a great idea. There are some nations that are really evil. I mean, what can I say? There's some leaders that are truly evil. I think Ahmadinejad is one of those, and I think in the same way that when you have a leader, as you do in the case of the Sudan, which is in some respects allowing or even perpetrating genocide on people in his own country, that this is not an acceptable setting and that we should do everything to employ the sanctions. The president just put in place a whole new series of sanctions against the Sudan. I support that. I want to put as much pressure as we can economically and diplomatically on the Sudan and their leadership.
Can I also ask, on your website there is no position on Darfur. So
I've given speeches and been asked this. There's a lot of stuff that's not on my website. I mean, you can, but I've given speeches on this. Or excuse me, I've spoken on this topic and made the same points before. Yes, ma'am, way back there.
Yes, as you notice what I'm wearing. So therefore, I'm Smeen Schulte, and I'm going to go to Massachusetts in a couple weeks.
Oh, good.
After Christmas. So my question is...
That'll make 3 Republicans in the whole state when you're there.
Well, anyway, my question is, what is your accountability on health and financial security, which is our Medicare and our Social Security? I understand they want to make cuts, privatize Social Security. Are your?
I'm not in favor of privatizing Social Security or making cuts, but I do believe that we're going to have to reform Social Security, not for our seniors, but for those that are coming along down the road, because Social Security cannot continue the way it is. And the two major paths we have are, one, to raise taxes on people, which I don't want to do, and the other is to allow some portion of people's money that they're now having taken out of their salary to be invested in Social Security, have some of that be allowed by them to be invested in.
That's privatization.
You call it privatization, I call it a private account. You don't want privatization?
I call it privatization.
But you don't want privatization then?
No.
And do you want higher taxes?
I don't want the kids to invest their money because of the fact a lot of them would invest it and they would lose, because they're living so high that they would have the expenses that if they got it in their hand, they would use it for something else.
Well, they don't get it in their hand.
Well.
So, no, let me tell you that the proposal the president made is that if people have some portion of their income taken out, that they can direct a trustee or an entity to invest in certain approved investments. They don't get to invest it everywhere they want.
Sure,
It's
that's what Wall Street is for.
Well, that's what America's for, all right? Which is investing in our future. And by the way, you know what they're doing with it now? You know what's doing? Well, all your money's going now?
First of all, it should have never been put in the pie.
Yeah, well, it's been put in the pie. That's number one. And number two,
it should be taken out of
yeah,
the pie.
but where it's going now is in this big pie. If they'd have put it in Wall Street 50 years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about a Social Security problem. If they'd been investing in this country, we'd have money coming out of our ears. But instead, they took all that money out of the pie. That's wrong. I'd take that money that's now being taken out every year in the pie and let people invest that in approved investment vehicles, whether it's bonds, government bonds. They could make choices. That, I think, is a way of helping solve the problem. And they're.
I was saying, you're saying that they can't just go further away and wait.
No one proposes that it's going to get the money and spend it the way they want to. The president's plan, which called for private accounts, was to say, you know what, all that money that we're taking out and putting into the government pot, we should let people instead invest in America if they want to. And my view is this: a couple of things. One, we're going to protect Social Security. We're not going to pull back on the promises made to our seniors. It's going to get reformed by Republicans and Democrats coming together to make sure that it's always viable. I don't believe in raising taxes. I certainly don't believe in having it entirely privatized. I don't mean that, but I do believe that private accounts, as the president proposed, that was a good idea. I also believe that it's a good idea to get all of our citizens insured with health insurance, and that we're going to reduce the burden on our health care system by getting everybody insured. But again, I don't want to raise taxes to do that. Thank you. Yes?
So going along with what she said, you're saying that if we get the Social Security and do the private
accounts,
you're saying, the private accounts, is that we don't actually get the money in our hands, but we get to have a choice of places that the government invests it for our own personal Social Security.
You're getting down into the weeds, all right, as to
Yeah,
who's doing the investments. I mean, do you have an account at work like a 401k?
I'm on Social Security.
Okay. Well, for those who save through their employer, for instance, or have a 401k, they direct a trustee to invest in certain approved types of investments, groups of investments. They might invest in all of the S&P 500, for instance, or and those are. So the money doesn't come into people's pockets to go out and invest.
Okay.
It's done instead by a trustee, and they're and no one I don't know has suggested to have that done for all of people's Social Security income, but instead for a slice of it, and for that portion particularly that's being taken out and being used today to finance government programs. And there are other ideas as well. One is to extend the retirement age. The other is to have a lower inflation rate on initial benefits for higher income individuals. That doesn't affect people already on Social Security, but it would for people who are younger. And these are all the ideas that are being spoken of. And the only one I've described as I think says this has some merit is the one with regards to private accounts, but the others have arithmetic merit. And certainly Republicans and Democrats are going to have to work on those together. Yes? How do we become more competitive with Asia? And that's an awfully interesting and important topic. Just today we saw the Maytag factory closed down. And there are going to be other factories in this country that close down unless we become more competitive on a global basis. Now some people are going to say, let's put up barriers and not let foreign goods in. Okay, let's not let those foreign products come into this country. But don't forget, about 1 out of every 3 acres planted for agriculture in this country goes outside the country. And if we put up barriers around here, they'll put barriers up around there. And we're going to find ourselves a far less wealthy society. It's been calculated that the average American family makes about $9,000 a year more a year by virtue of there being trade with other nations, being able to sell our goods elsewhere. So it's important for us to continue to trade. But it's also important that the trade is done on a level playing field. And China in particular has manipulated their currency in such a way that their goods are at an advantage. Their tax structure, it puts us at a disadvantage because we have embedded taxes in our products, and they don't protect our intellectual property rights as they ought to. And what I mean, I'm talking about patents and designs. So we're going to have to be a little tougher to make sure that we're on a level playing field. We're going to have to give our workers new training and skills for the jobs of tomorrow. But we're going to open up more markets for America and raise the standards of fairness for the nations we trade with around the world. And ultimately, I believe that America can compete globally. I believe we will compete globally. I know there's some people who don't think we can compete. The only thing we can do is to hide. If we go that course, recognize, if we don't think we can compete in the marketplace, then we won't be able to compete for long as a military entity. Because if we're not strong enough to lead the world in technology and manufacturing and design, then how are we going to stay ahead militarily? And if this country is not the superpower militarily, who will be? And how would our world be for our kids and grandkids if this nation were not the strongest on earth? Thank you. Yes, sir.
It was a Sierra Club that stopped the Army Corps of Engineers from making the dikes and the levees around New Orleans strong enough because they were worried about the lake. It's environmental groups that keep clearing brush around the houses. Now they're complaining about ethanol production and the wind generated birds flying into the windmills. You make sure that we're not living in straw houses like all the world.
Well, you know, in every endeavor, there are people who go a little bit beyond, you know, the mark, if you will, who go a little further than makes a lot of sense. So there are some wonderful environmentalists who are really thoughtful, that want to keep the planet from getting too hot, that want to keep our soil from becoming eroded, that want to keep pollution out of the air and the water. And I support those things. Right. And I fought as a governor to clamp down on something we called in our state the filthy five, the 5 dirtiest energy producers. And we got them to sign up for a program to improve and to abide by higher standards. So I consider myself an environmentalist. At the same time, there's some people who take things too far. I would drill in Anwar. I would not say, if the people in Alaska want us to drill there, we need the oil, I would drill there. We can do so in an environmentally friendly way. And but sure, they're going to be from time to time. I mean, we're going to have windmills, and I guess there will be a bird now and then that flies into a windmill blade, but they fly into cars and into windows and everything else, and we're going to have windmills because we need the energy, and it's a good thing to have energy from the wind, because that means we don't have to use as much energy from coal or oil or other sources that are CO2 emitting, and overall that's better for the birds and for us and for the bees. And so we'll do a better job there. I'm told I got to stop here. I'll take one more question. Yes.
What kind of improvements do you see as a future president in helping us have better religious freedom?
How do we have better religious freedom? I think it begins by having a president that believes in faith and believes that people should have a multitude of faiths as they wish. There is right now in this country a strong effort to establish a national religion. It's the religion of secularism. It's anti-religion. It's an effort to take God out of everything. I even saw the new dollar coin. It's a nice coin. Have you seen it? It has the picture of the President of the United States on the outside. So the first 4 are with Washington, Jefferson, Adams, and so forth. And so I look at that coin, and I looked at it. There's no "In God We Trust." And they said, "Well, turn it sideways." On the side, in little tiny letters, it says "In God We Trust." And that's just how the ACLU wants it. It wants God to be almost invisible. I don't believe in that. I believe that our religious heritage heritage. It's an important part of our culture. We should keep in God we trust on our coins, under God in our Pledge of Allegiance. We should acknowledge the hand of the Creator in our lives and in this nation. And so I will fight as a president to preserve a recognition of faith, recognizing other people can choose whatever the course they'd like. But this is a nation where that's been a part of our heritage, and we should keep it as part of our heritage. And at the same time, recognize people of different faiths and the right to live by the faith that they happen to believe in. I'm told I've got to let you go. I want to tell you, and by the way, I'm going to Florida. I'm about to jump on a plane and go to Florida. But I want to say thanks to you. Thank you for your energy, your commitment to this process, for getting to know candidates, to take a good look at us and decide if you like us or you don't like us. I need that. We need that. It's a service people in Iowa provide for the whole nation. No one else does this like you do. Iowa and New Hampshire really get to know the candidates. And I appreciate the time that you spend at this, and I want to tell you I'm optimistic about our future as a country because of the heart of the American people I get to see. We just need to make sure we have leaders that are strong, that have a vision for the future of America, that will tell us the truth, and that will actually lead. And I'm going to do just that with your help. Thank you so much.